Have you ever looked at your life and felt like you're just drifting? Like each day comes and goes, leaving no real mark behind, while the best version of you remains just out of reach? It's so easy to fall into what I call the comfort trap, that silent prison where your routines feel safe, but your dreams quietly fade away. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow I'll start, but tomorrow never comes. You scroll, you delay, and slowly you settle. But just imagine what would happen if, starting today, you refuse to let another day slip by. Imagine what your life could look like if every single morning you made a conscious decision to push your limits, grow stronger, and move closer to the person you were meant to be. This video isn't just motivation, it's a blueprint, a challenge, a path forged by the wisdom of the Stoics. 13 timeless Stoicism lessons that can completely reshape the way you live. These aren't abstract ideas, they're practical tools to help you stop comparing yourself to others, build unshakable discipline, and become comfortable with discomfort. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment, because the truth is that moment doesn't exist. What you need is to show up for yourself every single day. The Stoics didn't wait for change. They became the change. Are you ready to do the same? Are you ready to force yourself to rise no matter how you feel? Before we dive into the lessons, let me tell you a story that might sound familiar. Laura never had it easy. Since she was a child, people told her she wasn't smart enough, not as talented as her older brother, not as outgoing as her friends, and eventually she started to believe them. At school, she was the quiet girl in the back, never raising her hand, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she thought trying was pointless. At work, she was competent, dependable, but invisible, afraid to take risks, afraid to stand out. She lived each day on autopilot, going through the motions, convincing herself that average was all she could ever be. But deep down, a voice whispered, "You want more. You're meant for more." Then one afternoon, sitting alone on a park bench, something shifted. Laura was watching a group of runners pass by, thinking, "I wish I could do that," when her eyes caught on someone unusual. Among the runners was a man, probably in his 60s, with a prosthetic leg. And yet he wasn't just keeping up. He was leading the pack. Powerful strides, relentless pace, a look of calm determination on his face. Laura couldn't help herself. She walked up to him and asked, "How do you do it? Where does that strength come from?" The man smiled without slowing down and said, "It's all in your mind. Your body will follow whatever your mind believes is possible." He paused, then added something that stuck with her forever. "Every morning I repeat these words from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That one phrase hit Laura like lightning. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept repeating those words to herself. You have power over your mind. And for the first time, she stopped blaming the world. She stopped waiting for motivation, and she started taking action. The next morning, she set her alarm 20 minutes earlier. She sat with a notebook and asked herself, what do I really want? The answers weren't huge, but they were honest. Learn something new. Feel proud of myself. Stop being afraid of failing. She hadn't even realized she wanted those things until she wrote them down. Progress was slow. Some days were hard. But every single day, Laura forced herself to take one more step. When doubt crept in, She remembered the words of the man in the park. She reminded herself that real control wasn't about what happens to you, it's about how you respond. And today, Laura isn't rich. She's not famous, but she's awake. She faces each day with purpose. She's no longer on autopilot because she chose to fight for her life back. And it all began with one Stoic truth. Strength starts in the mind. Laura's shift didn't happen overnight, but the words from that man and from Marcus Aurelius planted a seed, a realization. Greatness doesn't depend on what happens to you, but on what you choose to do with it one day at a time. And that's the core of this video. Before we go further, if this message is resonating with you, take a second to hit subscribe and consider becoming an exclusive member. We'd love to grow alongside you. And in the comments, share your answer to this question. What are you doing today to become your best self? Because here's the truth, every single day counts. Imagine your life as a massive rope, woven from thousands of individual strands. Each strand represents a single day. When you live that day with intention, that strand becomes strong, firm, meaningful, unbreakable. But when you let the day pass in distraction or delay, that strand turns weak, thin, fragile. Now ask yourself, how many of those strands have you let snap because you kept saying, I'll do it tomorrow? Let me be direct. Every day, whether you notice or not, you're making decisions. Small ones, big ones. But they add up. You're either building a life that matters or watching time quietly slip through your hands. Be honest. How many times have you said, I'll start next week, or I'll deal with it later? Maybe it was finally hitting the gym, picking up that book, apologizing for something that still lingers in your chest, and yet tomorrow never seems to arrive. Marcus Aurelius had a way of anchoring his focus every morning. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive." To him, this wasn't poetic fluff. It was a practice, a ritual. Each morning, he reflected not just on his power as an emperor, but on his duty as a human being, to be just, to be kind, to act with clarity and wisdom, because he understood something we often forget. Every sunrise is a new chance to do it right. Even if the world feels harsh, even if you're tired, the chance to live with purpose is still yours. It may sound hard to hear, but not everyone gets another day. You did. And when you keep postponing what truly matters, you're losing something precious, something that never comes back. Time. This isn't about trying to do everything in 24 hours. It's about treating today as if it matters, because it does. Ask yourself this. When you lay down to sleep tonight, how do you want to feel? Proud that you took a step forward? Or disappointed that another day vanished into nothing? So what can you do right now to live better? It doesn't have to be huge, just meaningful. Want to deepen a relationship? Pick up the phone and call? Want to grow mentally? Spend 30 focused minutes learning something new. Read, reflect, explore. But whatever it is, do it today, because tomorrow is a myth we use to avoid action. And here's one more powerful practice to start your day with. Ask yourself, how do I want to show up today? This idea comes from Roxy Nafusi, and it's incredibly grounding. She suggests choosing your energy before the day begins. What energy will guide you? Gratitude, passion, courage. Because it's not just about what you do, it's about how you do it. The energy you bring shapes the quality of your effort, the tone of your relationships, and the emotions you carry when the day ends. So don't underestimate the power of a single day. Everyone is a building block. a chance to rise, a test of your intention, and a step toward becoming the person you know you're capable of being. So now you know, today matters. It's not about waiting for the stars to align. It's about aligning your actions with your purpose. And yet, too many of us are still waiting. For what exactly? To move closer to the life you truly want, you have to start imperfectly, immediately. Because if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, that moment will never arrive. So let me ask you, how much longer will you delay before you finally begin building something that actually matters? You are capable of more than you think. Have you ever realized that more often than not, the biggest obstacle in your life is you? It's not society. It's not a lack of money, resources, or support. And it's definitely not bad luck. The truth is, it's that quiet voice inside your own head whispering, I can't. It stops you before you even try. It convinces you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. But here's the truth. Those limits, they're illusions. They exist only in your mind. How many times have you held yourself back, not because someone else told you to, but because you already decided you weren't worthy? You didn't go after the opportunity. You didn't speak up. You didn't try. Why? Because of a story you told yourself. But I'm here to shake that story. You are enough. You are capable. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus understood this deeply. He once said, circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him. What does that mean? It means that life doesn't shape your worth. It reveals your inner strength. Adversity doesn't define you, it shows you who you really are. Epictetus himself was born into slavery. His entire early life was defined by limitation, but he never allowed that to be his identity. Through years of inner work, reflection, and disciplined thought, he became one of the most influential philosophers the world has ever known. His life is living proof. The chains that bind us are often in our minds, not our circumstances. Still not convinced? Let's look at someone far outside philosophy, Charlie Chaplin. As a child, Chaplin lived in extreme poverty, even spending time in an orphanage. Some days, his biggest goal was just finding something to eat. The world saw him as just another poor, forgotten kid. But Chaplin didn't see himself that way. He once said, even back then, I considered myself the greatest actor in the world. Think about that. A child starving and abandoned still carried a belief so strong that it shaped his entire future. And that belief, that's what led him to become one of the most iconic and beloved figures in cinematic history. And this isn't just emotional storytelling. It's backed by science, too. A study published in Psychological Science examined how self-belief affects performance under pressure. The researchers gave participants complex mental and physical tasks, and they found something remarkable. Those who believed in their ability to succeed not only performed better, but they also kept going longer when things got hard. Why? Because when you think, I can't, your brain stops trying. It shuts down, assumes failure, and looks for an exit. But when you think, I can figure this out, something shifts. Your mind opens. It searches for alternatives. It starts connecting ideas. It fuels your resilience. It prepares you to adapt, to fight, to overcome. Your mindset is the key that either unlocks or limits your full potential. Now let's make it personal. Imagine this. You're handed an opportunity. Maybe it's presenting in front of a crowd. Maybe it's applying for your dream job. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you admire. And instead of jumping at the chance, you pause. You hesitate. That voice returns. I'm not ready. Someone else is better. What if I fail? Sound familiar? But what if, in that exact moment, you remembered Epictetus, remembered Chaplin, remembered the science? What if you reminded yourself that you are more powerful than that voice in your head? Because you are. And the moment you believe that is the moment everything starts to change. That voice in your head, the one that whispers, not yet, not ready, not good enough, it's louder than you think, but it's also wrong. Let me be blunt. You don't need to be 100% ready. You don't need every piece of the puzzle in place. The only thing you really need is to start right now. Isn't it time to finally break that old pattern? To stop waiting and start acting? Here are two simple things you can do today to begin rewiring your mindset. First, make a list. Not of tasks, but of impossibilities. What are the things you've told yourself you can't do? Maybe it's running a marathon, writing that book you've always dreamed about, speaking a new language fluently. Pick one, just one. And instead of thinking about the finish line, take the first micro step toward it. Buy the book. Go for a 5-minute walk. Sign up for an online class. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to begin. Second, challenge yourself once a week. Once a week, intentionally step outside your comfort zone. Speak in public. Say no when you'd usually say yes. Try something that scares you, even a little. Every challenge you face and overcome will prove one thing. You are stronger than you ever thought. Because here's the truth you've forgotten. You are worth more than you think. You know more than you realize. And you matter more than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. Your potential isn't missing. It's simply waiting. Waiting for you to stop making excuses. Waiting for you to show up. So let me ask again. How much longer will you wait before discovering what you're really capable of? Build habits that never fail. Let's get honest. The biggest mistake people make when trying to change their lives is believing that willpower is enough. It's not. Motivation is fleeting. Energy fades. But habits? Habits are what stay. Because strong habits aren't built on hype. They're built on systems. If you depend on motivation, you'll eventually fail. But if you build a smart system that supports your goal, those habits become automatic. Let me share something personal. A few years ago, I suffered an injury that made it essential for me to stretch every day. Not stretching meant pain, but sticking to it was tough. I'd do it one day, then skip the next. Some mornings I'd forget. Other days I just didn't feel like it. Sound familiar? Eventually I realized I had to stop relying on memory or willpower. So I changed my approach. I created a system. I placed my yoga mat right next to my bed, so it was the first thing I saw each morning. I played the same 3-minute song every time, making it part of a ritual. I told myself, no excuses, just 3 minutes. The result? Within a few weeks, I didn't even have to think about it anymore. It became automatic, effortless. That small system made a big difference. The habit stopped feeling like a burden and started feeling like a part of me. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert and author of How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, said it best. Goals are for losers. Systems are for winners. Sounds harsh, right? But there's truth in it. Goals by themselves can frustrate you. Why? Because you focus so much on the end result that every small setback feels like failure. You obsess over how far you still have to go and forget how far you've already come. But when you shift your focus from outcome to process, everything changes. The system becomes your engine. Even on bad days, it keeps you going. So how do you build systems that create unbreakable habits? Start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life in a day. Want to drink more water? Don't aim for 2 liters right away. Begin with something tiny, like drinking a glass of water the moment you wake up, and make it easy. If a habit requires too much effort at the start, your brain will resist. Ask yourself this: what's more likely to work? Getting out of bed, walking to the kitchen, and filling up a glass of water, or simply reaching for a full bottle that's already on your nightstand? Make the habit so easy you can't say no. So what's the real secret behind building habits that last? It's not willpower. It's not motivation. It's removing resistance, making the habit so seamless, so integrated into your life that it becomes automatic. Let's break this down. Imagine waking up and seeing a full glass of water already waiting for you on your nightstand. You don't have to get up. You don't have to think. You don't even have to try. It's just there, ready to go. That's the power of removing friction. When you eliminate obstacles, the habit flows naturally. No effort, no resistance, just execution. But here's the next step, and it's a game changer. Integrate your habit into your daily routine. Don't try to force a new behavior out of nowhere. Attach it to something you already do. This technique is called habit stacking. Let's say you already brush your teeth every morning, and I really hope you do. Use that action as your anchor. As soon as you finish brushing, you pick up the glass of water you prepared the night before and drink it. That's it. Simple, predictable, automatic. Why does this work so well? Because when you link a new habit to an existing one, your brain doesn't need to remember it. You bypass willpower altogether. Over time, the new habit becomes as second nature as the one it's attached to. Seneca, the great Stoic thinker, said it centuries ago: consistency beats talent. It's not about what you achieve in a single day. It's about what you repeat day after day until success becomes inevitable. Think of habits like a river. You don't need to push the water. You just need to carve the right channel. If the path is designed well, the flow takes care of itself. The current moves you forward quietly but powerfully until one day you realize you've arrived at a very different destination. Building systems doesn't make life harder. It makes life easier, more effective, smoother. Invest in yourself as a priority. Have you ever heard the story of the tired lumberjack? Every day he ventured into the forest with the same old axe, determined to cut down trees. At first things went well, but over time, the blade dulled. Cutting one tree began taking him hours. His body grew sore, his spirit exhausted. One day a passerby said, "Why don't you sharpen your axe or buy a new one?" Frustrated and fatigued, the lumberjack replied, "I can't afford the time. I need to keep working." So he kept swinging, harder, longer, until one day he collapsed, too worn out to go on. Eventually he realized, unless he stopped to invest in a better tool, he would never break free from the endless grind. So with what little he had left, he bought a new axe, and everything changed. Trees fell with ease. Hours of work became minutes, and for the first time in years, he had energy left to dream again. Now let me ask you, are you swinging a dull axe? Because too many of us are just like that lumberjack. We keep pushing ourselves, using our time, our bodies, our minds, until there's nothing left. And when someone says you should rest, you should invest in yourself, we answer, I can't. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I just have to keep going. But the truth is simple. If you don't invest in yourself, you'll burn out. You'll drain every drop of energy, clarity, and passion until you have nothing left to give. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, understood this well. He wrote, always choose to strengthen your mind and body, for everything else depends on it. And he was absolutely right, because if you don't take care of your mental clarity, your physical health, your emotional resilience, how can you expect to thrive? How can you build a better life when you're using tools that are already breaking? Psychologists even have a name for this: caregiver syndrome. It happens when you give everything to others, your family, your team, your job, and forget yourself in the process. The result? You lose your spark, your health fades, your mind gets foggy, your purpose dims. And the worst part? When you neglect yourself long enough, you don't just lose energy, you lose your sense of purpose. And once that's gone, everything feels heavier, because trying to take care of others while completely ignoring yourself is like trying to pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. In fact, studies show that people suffering from caregiver syndrome often experience severe anxiety, emotional burnout, and even physical exhaustion. Why? Because they never give themselves permission to be a priority. Now pause for a second and think about your own life. Imagine this. You've spent weeks putting out fires at work. You've been showing up for others, taking on responsibilities and pushing your own needs further and further down the list. How do you feel by the end of the day? If you're like most people, you feel drained, unmotivated, running on fumes. And here's the danger. When you don't invest in yourself, each day becomes harder than the last. But here's the good news. Self-investment doesn't require big sacrifices. It starts with small, consistent choices, just 20 minutes a day. That's all it takes to begin. 20 minutes to go for a walk. 20 minutes to read something inspiring. 20 minutes to sit in silence, reflect, and breathe. These moments might seem small, but they nourish you mentally, emotionally, physically, and slowly they refill your cup. And there's one more powerful act of self-respect you must learn. Say no. Yes, it sounds simple, but let's be real, it's not. Saying no is hard, especially when you're used to pleasing others. But every time you say no to something that drains you, you're actually saying yes to something even more important: your well-being. Maybe that means canceling a meeting that could have been an email. Maybe it's skipping a social gathering you're only attending out of guilt. Maybe it's choosing rest over obligation. Those no's are not selfish. They are acts of protection for your time, your energy, your sanity. Think of investing in yourself like putting money into a high-yield account. At first, the returns seem small, but if you keep showing up, if you keep feeding your growth, your results compound. You don't just live better, you build a life that reflects your best self, and that's worth fighting more. So let me ask you, what are you doing today to invest in your growth? Will you keep swinging with a dull axe? Or will you finally pause, sharpen your edge, and move forward with strength? Drop a comment. Let us know how you're choosing to invest in yourself, starting now. Small steps, big changes. Picture an elephant, majestic, powerful, walking slowly but steadily across miles of open land. Do you think it learned to move with such strength in a single day? Of course not. When it was born, its first steps were uncertain. It stumbled, fell, tried again, over and over, until one day, almost without realizing it, it walked with confidence. That's how real progress works. Not in dramatic leaps, but in small, determined steps, repeated day after day. The Stoics knew this deeply. They didn't seek shortcuts. They didn't expect overnight transformation. If they lived today, they wouldn't be looking for the latest productivity hack or instant success formula. They knew the truth. Slow growth is strong growth. And one modern voice who echoes this idea is James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. He popularized the idea of improving just 1% every day, a concept called the power of marginal gains. Let's break that down. If you improve by just 1% every single day for 1 year, you don't end up 10% better. You end up 37 times better. It sounds like magic, but it's not. It's math. And more importantly, it's momentum. And here's the best part. You don't have to change everything at once. You just need to take small, intentional steps today, and then tomorrow, and then the next day. Repeat that, and your transformation becomes inevitable. And that's the quiet power of consistency. When you stop chasing giant leaps and start honoring the small steps, you realize you don't have to do it all at once. You just have to begin. Let me ask you, how many times have you wanted to start something, but didn't, simply because it felt overwhelming? How often have you thought, I don't have time to read an entire book, or saving money? I can't afford to set aside that much right now. Here's the secret. You don't have to do it all. You just have to do a little and do it often. Let's take reading, for example. You don't need to finish a book in a weekend. If you read just 4 pages a day, that's over 1,400 pages in a year. That's 5, maybe 6 full books. 4 pages might feel like nothing. But done daily, it becomes powerful. And the beauty? You won't even feel like you're putting in much effort. That's the power of micro progress. Quiet, sustainable, and extremely effective. Let's talk about saving money. Say you want to save 1,000 euros this year. Are you going to put it all aside in one go? Of course not. You'd starve for the rest of the month. That would be like trying to eat a whole watermelon in one bite. Impossible and messy. The smarter way? Slice by slice, a little at a time. Saving works the same way. Round up your purchases and stash the change. Drop spare coins in a jar at the end of each day. Transfer 2 euros here, 5 euros there. Small, painless, consistent. As Marcus Aurelius once said, nothing happens all at once. Everything is the result of small steps. So true. But here's something else most people forget. Celebrate your progress, even the tiny wins. Maybe you saved 20 euros this month. Don't brush it off. That's proof you're moving forward. That's momentum. Every little win builds confidence, and confidence fuels the next step. Small steps compound. 1% better today, 1% more tomorrow. Then one day you look back and realize you're no longer the same person. Massive transformation is built on tiny actions, done daily. So tell me, what small step can you take today? You don't need to leap. You just need to start. Because when you push yourself to be just a little better every single day, you're not just hitting goals. You're building a version of yourself that surpasses them. Grow through discomfort. Now let's get real. Growth doesn't live in your comfort zone. So let me ask you, how many things have you avoided, not because they were impossible, but because they made you feel uncomfortable? How many chances have slipped through your fingers, all because you weren't willing to face the discomfort that came with them? Picture a baby bird in a nest. Life is easy. Food arrives. It's warm. It's safe. But one day something changes. The nest becomes too small, too still. If it wants to fly, if it wants to live, it has to leap. And in that moment, it faces a choice. Stay in the comfort of the nest and remain grounded forever, or face the fear and learn to fly. Now tell me, are you still sitting in your nest, waiting for the world to change, while you stay exactly the same? Because here's the truth. If everything in your life feels easy, you're probably not growing. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, put it best: adversity is the training ground of the soul. He didn't see discomfort as punishment. He saw it as practice, as a gym for the mind. And he didn't just say it, he lived it. Despite his wealth and influence, Seneca would regularly sleep on the floor, wear plain clothes, and eat only the most basic food. Why? To remind himself that he didn't need comfort to survive, to train himself to be resilient. He knew that if his happiness depended on comfort, then the day it disappeared, so would his strength. But if he could thrive in discomfort, then nothing, not poverty, not chaos, not loss, could break him. We've talked about stepping into discomfort, but let's be honest, it sounds inspiring until it's you standing face to face with fear. You're probably thinking, okay, but come on. Facing discomfort isn't that easy. And you're right, it's not. No one wants to feel uncomfortable, but some people have made it their mission, and it's changed everything. Take the creators of yes theory, for example. Have you heard their motto? Seek discomfort. It's more than a catchphrase. It's a philosophy, and a powerful one. Their belief is simple. The more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you grow. And they live it. They've done things most of us would never dare. Traveling the world with no money, staying in the homes of strangers, saying yes to opportunities most people would turn down out of fear. They've documented it all. And through every risk, every awkward moment, every leap into the unknown, they've become stronger, braver, more fulfilled. Now don't worry. I'm not asking you to sleep on the floor or board a flight without your wallet. But I am asking you to change the way you see discomfort. Because discomfort isn't your enemy. It's not a stop sign. It's a compass. It's pointing directly toward where your next level of growth is. If it's hard for you to wake up early and hit the gym, that's where your strength is waiting. If you avoid difficult conversations, that's where your courage is hiding. If trying something new terrifies you, that's where your transformation begins. Let me tell you something personal. The first time I had to speak in a company meeting, I was terrified. My mouth went dry. My hands were shaking. I could hear my heartbeat louder than my voice. But I did it anyway. I forced myself to show up. Once. Then again. And again. Now, my boss asked me to speak in front of the entire team, even the executive board. The thing that once terrified me, I now do without thinking. Why? Because discomfort disappears when you face it enough times. So here's what I want you to do. Grab a piece of paper. Write down 3 things you avoid because they make you uncomfortable. Be honest. Is it asking for a raise? Confronting someone about an issue? Going to a networking event alone? Now pick one of those things and commit to facing it this week. You don't need to conquer it overnight. Just take one small step. If socializing makes you nervous, go say hi to someone new. If confrontation scares you, write down what you'd say, even if you don't send it yet. Discomfort isn't defeated through thinking, it's defeated through doing. And even more important, change how you see discomfort. Stop labeling it as danger. Start recognizing it as growth. Think about the gym. When you lift weights, your muscles ache. But you don't panic. You know it means they're getting stronger. Life works the same way. When something challenges you, emotionally, mentally, physically, it's making you better. So next time you feel resistance, fear, or hesitation, tell yourself, this is part of the process. This means I'm growing. Let me ask you, will you choose comfort now or growth in the long run? Because the gap between who you are today and who you could be lies in the things you haven't dared to do yet. And when you finally decide to face those things, to seek discomfort instead of run from it, that's when you become unstoppable. So, what will you do today to step out of your comfort zone and move one step closer to the person you're meant to be? Don't work just for applause. Now picture this. You're standing on a stage. You've just poured your heart into a speech, or a song, or a presentation. You finish and look out into the crowd. And then, silence. No applause, no cheering, no compliments. How would that feel? If you're like most people, it would feel crushing, because we've been trained to believe that success equals approval, that if no one claps, it must not have been good enough. But here's the truth, my friend. We just asked a tough question. What will you do today to move toward growth, even if no one notices? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Don't work just for applause. If your motivation is built on applause, you're building your life on shaky ground. It may feel good when people cheer, when they clap, when they tell you you're amazing. But if that's the only fuel driving your actions, you'll burn out fast. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly centuries ago. Do every act of your life as though it were your last. He didn't say, do it only if people will notice, or do it if the world rewards you. He said, do it, period. Because the true reward isn't public praise. It's the private knowledge that you gave it everything you had. If every step you take is shaped by what others think, you'll never truly be free. You'll be trapped in a performance, shaping your actions not to grow, not to serve your purpose, but to please. You'll start living for likes, applause, validation, and the more you get, the more you'll need. It becomes a cycle, a trap. But at the end of the day, when the audience leaves, when you're alone with your thoughts, applause doesn't follow you home. What matters then is this. Are you proud of what you did? Think about this. Imagine a student who studies all night for a final exam. They prepare with everything they've got: grit, focus, determination. They pass with flying colors. But no one says a word. No praise. No celebration. Not even a pat on the back. Was their effort wasted? Some might say yes. But for those who understand the deeper meaning of success, the answer is a clear and confident no. Because the greatest victory wasn't in the grade. It was in the integrity, the quiet power of keeping a promise to yourself. So now I want to ask you, why do you do what you do? What fuels your discipline, your effort, your work? If your answer is, so other people will notice, you're chasing a fragile reward. Simon Sinek explains this perfectly. When you work only for external validation, you become a slave to approval. Let that sink in, because real success doesn't come from being praised. It comes from doing what you love with consistency and integrity, even when no one is watching. So how do you make this real in your life? Reflect on your true motivation. Why are you doing what you're doing? Strip away the praise, the applause, the recognition. Would you still keep going? Would you still feel proud? If the answer is no, it's time to refocus. Start doing it to become better, not to be seen. When you do that, you become untouchable. No setback, no silence, no opinion can shake you. Learn to love the process. Imagine finishing a big project and nobody notices. Would you still feel accomplished? If not, it means your fulfillment depends on others, and that makes your happiness vulnerable. But if you learn to find joy in the act itself, to value the work, not just the recognition, then you win every single time, even in silence. Because here's the ultimate Stoic truth. When you do it for yourself, from a place of purpose, you've already won. Becoming better is not selfish. Now let me ask you something personal. Have you ever felt guilty for wanting to improve? Guilty for taking time for yourself? For going to the gym, reading, going to therapy, or saying no to something that drains you? And then someone makes a comment. You only think about yourself. Why are you so focused on you? Suddenly you start to question yourself. Am I being selfish? Am I doing something wrong? We've been conditioned to believe that working on ourselves means neglecting others. But listen carefully. Investing in yourself is not selfish. In fact, it's the most responsible thing you can do. Seneca said it clearly. If you want to help the world, first improve yourself. This isn't just philosophy, it's common sense. How can you give your best to anyone else if you're running on empty? How can you lead, support, care, and connect if your own inner world is a mess? You can't pour from an empty cup, and no one benefits from a version of you that's burned out, resentful, and lost. We ended the last lesson with a powerful reminder. You can't pour from an empty cup, but to be honest, that metaphor could go even further, because most people today are walking around with empty pitchers, trying to fill the cups of others while ignoring how dry they've become inside. If you truly want to give to others, whether it's love, support, wisdom, or strength, you have to fill yourself first. Let me share a real story that proves self-improvement is not selfish. It's responsible. A close friend of mine made a bold decision. He quit his job, not because he was lazy or reckless, but because he wanted to dedicate himself fully to something bigger, studying for his doctorate. He saw an opportunity to build a better future, and he wasn't going to let it slip by. But the criticism came fast. People mocked him. They whispered behind his back. They called him selfish. They said, look at his poor wife working hard while he just sits and studies. But he didn't let the noise derail him. He locked in. For 3 long years, he gave everything to his education. No parties, no distractions, no shortcuts. His wife carried the financial burden alone, and people talked a lot. But today, no one says a word, because today he's a doctor. He holds a respected position. They own a beautiful home. Their life is stable, peaceful. They have built the future they once could only dream of. And it all started with one brave decision: to invest in himself. What once looked selfish is now the reason his entire family thrives. So let me ask you, what would you have done in his shoes? Would you have played it safe, stayed where it was comfortable, just to avoid being judged? Or would you have bet on yourself, knowing deep down the sacrifice would be worth it? If you want to apply this in your own life, it doesn't mean you have to quit everything. It means you start being intentional with your time and energy. Want to expand your knowledge? Set aside just 30 minutes a week to read, watch, or learn something new. Want to improve your health? Commit to movement, to sleep, to nourishing your body and your mind. Value your family. Then become your best self for them, because they don't need a drained, distracted version of you. They need the version that's strong, centered, and alive. Here's the key. You don't need to justify every decision. People might say, "You've changed." And you know what the best response is? "Thank you. That was the goal." Because if you're not growing, you're stuck. So ask yourself, what version of you are you giving to the world? Because when you push yourself to be better every day, you don't just change your life. You uplift everyone around you. Stop comparing yourself. Let's shift gears. Now picture this. You're running on a track, focused, breathing steadily, keeping your own rhythm. Then, you glance sideways. You see someone running faster, someone who looks more effortless, someone who seems ahead. Suddenly, you tense up. You lose your stride. And worst of all, you stop moving forward. Sound familiar? That's what happens every time you compare yourself to others. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't make you faster. It just distracts you. It slows you down. Comparison is like a mental anchor. The more you look left and right, the less attention you give to your own path, and the more you drift off course. Do you know what Epictetus would say? Don't concern yourself with what others are doing. Focus on what you can control. And he was right. What good does it do to obsess over someone else's timeline? Their success? Their body? Their career? You have no idea what they sacrificed, what they struggle with, what they gave up behind the scenes. And most importantly, you are not running their race. We left off with a simple truth. You're not running anyone else's race. So why keep sabotaging your own progress by watching theirs? Because the harsh reality is this. If you're spending more time watching others than working on yourself, you're not just distracted, you're drifting. And this is where one of the most powerful enemies of focus creeps in: social media. Let's be real. You know the routine. You wake up. You grab your phone before you even get out of bed. Without even thinking, you're already scrolling. Someone's in Bali. Someone else just launched a six-figure business. Another person is showing off their abs, their journal, their smoothie, their perfectly filtered life. And there you are, still lying in bed, feeling like you're already behind. But here's what's really happening. You're comparing your unfiltered reality to someone else's highlight reel. They've edited, cropped, chosen the perfect angle. You're in your pajamas with morning breath and an unfinished to-do list. And the most dangerous part, while you're busy watching their life, you're not building your own. So, how do you break this toxic loop? Set personal goals and measure progress based on who you were yesterday, not who someone else appears to be today. Did you do one thing better than last week? Did you push a little further on your project? Did you keep a promise to yourself? That's progress. That's what matters. Your only competition is the person in the mirror. Limit your exposure. If social media consistently makes you feel like you're not enough, step away. Here's a real practical shift that could change your mornings forever. Don't touch your phone in the first hour of your day, period. Sounds extreme? It's not. Studies have shown that starting your day with social media hijacks your mindset. It puts you in a reactive state, filled with comparison, urgency, and noise, when what you really need is clarity, direction, and ownership. In the podcast, The 5 a.m. Club, they explain it perfectly. The first thing you feed your brain in the morning programs your mindset for the rest of the day. So if the first thing you consume is someone else's success, you're already starting behind. But if the first thing you do is plan, read, reflect, or move your body, you begin with intention. So yes, it's hard because let's be honest, we're addicted, but it's not impossible. How can you make it easier? Leave your phone outside your bedroom at night. Yes, even if it means buying a $10 alarm clock. When you wake up, don't scroll. Invest. Read 2 pages. Journal 1 thought. Stretch for 5 minutes. Set your top 3 goals for the day. You don't have to disappear from the internet. Just make sure the first thing you do each morning isn't comparing yourself to strangers. Now I want you to pause and ask yourself, how many hours have you given away watching other people's progress while ignoring your own? How much energy have you wasted on comparison? Energy you could have used to create, build, grow. Because when you force yourself to be better, day after day, the only comparison that will ever matter is the one you make with the person you used to be. Quality time matters. Let's turn inward again to something deceptively simple but deeply powerful. Let me ask you, my friend, have you ever been with someone but not really present? You're sitting next to them. You're in the same room, but your mind, it's somewhere else entirely. Maybe you're thinking about work. Maybe you're checking your phone. Maybe you're already planning the next task, the next meeting, the next moment. And while you're physically there, you're not emotionally available. Then suddenly, something important happens. Your partner shares something vulnerable. Your child tells you about their day. Your friend looks to you for comfort, and you miss it, not because you were gone, but because you weren't really there. So far, we've been talking about focus, about being present with yourself and others. But let's be honest. How often are we physically there, but mentally a million miles away? You know the moment you're having dinner with someone you care about. Maybe your child, your partner, your best friend. They're excited, sharing something that matters to them. And you? You're nodding, saying, uh-huh, with your eyes glued to your phone. You're scrolling, distracted. You think you're listening, but you're not. And then they stop. They realize you weren't really there. And here's the worst part. Maybe, just maybe, they'll never share with the same energy again. And what if one day you don't get the chance to listen at all? This isn't just about your relationships with others. This is about the relationship you have with yourself. How many times have you said you were going to work on yourself, only to do it without real presence? You put on a motivational video, but you're texting while it plays. You go for a walk to clear your mind, but your phone buzzes nonstop. You sit down to read, and 3 pages later, you realize you haven't absorbed a single word. It's not about how much time you spend on something. It's about how deeply you're present in that time. As Seneca once said, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. It's not the quantity of time with others that creates meaning, it's the quality. You can spend hours with someone and still feel distant. You can spend an hour alone and grow more than in a week if you're truly present. If you want to improve day after day, you must learn to make every minute count. It's pointless to dedicate time to yourself if you fill it with noise. It's pointless to be with someone physically if your attention is somewhere else entirely. So what can you do? Here's a powerful, simple practice. Schedule quality time for the people who truly matter. Don't let your daily routine turn your relationships into an autopilot experience. Make space for them. And when you do, be all in. If you eat dinner with your family, do it without a phone on the table and without the TV humming in the background. Ask something meaningful, not just, how was your day, but what was the best part of your day? Listen, really listen, and respond with curiosity. With your partner, choose activities that open up real connection. Go for a walk, cook something together, talk with your friends. Don't just wait for plans to happen, create them. Call instead of texting. Suggest coffee instead of small talk. Be the one who makes space for connection without interruption. It may sound small, but these moments are the soul of real relationships. Because, my friend, relationships are like living things. They don't grow just because you check on them occasionally. They don't thrive with rushed attention or half-listening glances. They need care, presence, deliberate time. If you water them with intention, they bloom. But if you leave them on autopilot, one day you'll turn around and realize they've withered, quietly, slowly, irreversibly. So I ask you, what will you do with your time from now on? Will you keep letting it drip away into meaningless distractions? Or will you finally give it the attention and presence it deserves? Because here's the truth. When you push yourself to be better every single day, you don't just transform your own life. You change the lives of the people closest to you. You become a person who's fully there. And in a world full of noise, that's rare and it's powerful. Your body, your foundation for everything. Let's shift the lens inward again. Have you ever tried to concentrate, but your mind feels foggy? You want to move, but your body feels heavy, sluggish. You sit down to do something productive, but every task feels like pushing a boulder uphill. And then it hits you. Your body isn't supporting you. And when your body doesn't show up, everything else suffers. You can have the strongest willpower, the best intentions, and the clearest goals. But if your body doesn't support you, even the smallest tasks become overwhelming. Let me tell you a true story that changed how I see health forever. My neighbor used to be full of life, but over the years, it was as if her spark slowly dimmed. Basic things like going to the supermarket or climbing the stairs became exhausting missions. Even getting dressed looked like a battle. She began withdrawing from everything and everyone. No more visits, no more walks, no more smiles. Her world slowly collapsed into 4 silent walls. And the most heartbreaking part? She seemed to have accepted that this was her life now, but her daughter didn't. One day she made a decision not to let her mother disappear into that quiet decline. She started small, encouraged her to move, just a little, one step, then another. At first it was hard, painful, slow, but they kept going. 10-minute walks around the block, a bit of light stretching at home, some simple breathing exercises, and then the change began. Her body started responding. But even more powerful than that was what changed inside her. She lit up again. Her smile came back. Her laughter returned. She started conversation with neighbors. Suddenly, the woman who used to sit silently in her room was walking around the neighborhood, chatting with people, full of energy, full of life. Taking care of her body didn't just restore her movement, it restored her spirit. So let me ask you something honestly. Are you going to wait until your body breaks down to start taking care of it? Or will you make the decision today, right now, to move? Because you don't need to run marathons to feel better. Start with just 30 minutes of walking a day, and don't treat it like a boring obligation. Make it your moment. Make it sacred. One day, walk with your favorite playlist. Let the rhythm move your legs. Another day, walk in silence. Leave the headphones behind and listen to nature, to the hum of the city, to your breath. Let that time become your moving meditation. But movement is only one side of the equation. There's another crucial piece that most people ignore: sleep. It doesn't matter how productive your days are. If your nights are restless, your mind fogs, your energy fades, your focus crumbles. Want to build a solid nighttime routine? Start here. 1 hour before bed, turn off all screens. Dim the lights. Signal your brain it's time to slow down. Read a few pages of something peaceful. Write down one thing you're grateful for. Breathe, reflect, disconnect. Because rest isn't a luxury, it's fuel. As Seneca said, we must train the body so that it serves the mind. Your body and your mind are your most valuable tools. If you take care of them, they become your greatest allies. But if you neglect them, they become your heaviest burden. So I'll leave you with this. What's one step you can take today to care for your body and, by extension, your mind? Even if it's just a walk, a stretch, a nap. That one step might be what reconnects you with your strength, because without your health, everything else falls apart. Act. Stop overthinking. Now imagine this. You're holding a beautifully detailed map. You've studied it, marked all the routes, calculated the distances. You know exactly where you want to go. But here's the problem. You haven't taken a single step. And here's the truth, my friend. You can hold the most perfect plan in the world. But if you don't move, how will you ever get there? So you've studied the map. You've visualized the path. You've spent hours, maybe even years, discussing the plan. But let me be honest, none of it means anything if you don't take that first step. You want change? Do something. You want growth? Move. You want results? Act. Let me ask you a serious question. How many times have you wanted to start something but got stuck in your own head? Maybe it was a project, a tough conversation, a career change, a personal decision. You told yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, or I just need a little more time, or I need to be completely ready first. And days passed, then weeks, then months, and you're still in the same place, stuck in preparation mode while life keeps moving. Then one day, you look around, you see someone else, someone who had less than you, launching their business. Another person is finally taking that trip you've talked about for years. Someone else right now is living the life you've only been planning. And you're still overthinking, still waiting for the right moment, still believing that if you just think harder, plan better, research more, eventually you'll feel 100% certain. But here's the hard truth. That moment never comes. And while you're hesitating, the world is moving forward. That emptiness you sometimes feel, that frustration with yourself, it's not because you're not capable. It's not because you're unlucky. It's because deep down, you know there's more you could be doing, and you're not doing it. So what's the solution? Act. Even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect, just act. Want a practical tool to get out of your head and into motion? Try Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. It's simple, but powerful. The moment you feel hesitation creeping in, don't overthink, don't analyze, don't argue with your brain. Just count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and move. Need to send that difficult message? Count down and send. Struggling to get out of bed early? Count down and get up. Want to start that side hustle? Count down and take the first small step. Don't give your brain time to talk you out of it. And here's another game-changing habit. Break your big goals into tiny, manageable actions. Don't worry about writing the whole book. Just write the first sentence. Don't stress about getting in shape. Just make a better choice for your next meal. Don't obsess about becoming a new person overnight. Just do one thing better than yesterday. Because the truth is this: power doesn't come from thinking about action. It comes from taking action. So I'll ask you now, genuinely and directly, are you going to keep standing there, gripping the map, paralyzed by all the possible routes? Or will you finally take the first step? Everything we've explored in this video, every story, every lesson, has led to this moment, not to make you feel better, but to push you to be better day after day. But if you truly want to transform your life, if you want to become the person you were meant to be, there's still one final piece, something essential, something powerful, something that ties everything together, the line between staying stuck and moving forward without stopping. Discipline changes everything. Let's finish with the one thing that changes lives, not motivation, but discipline. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. You don't need more inspiration. You don't need another motivational quote. What you need is more discipline. I told you this from the very beginning because it's true. Motivation, it's a mood. One day you feel unstoppable. The next you feel like doing nothing at all. And if your actions depend on how you feel in the moment, your goals will always stay just that, goals, not reality. Discipline is the bridge between what you want and what you become. Epictetus said it best: no great thing is created suddenly. And let's be honest, can you imagine Epictetus achieving anything if he waited for the right mood? Picture him saying, I don't really feel like training my mind today. Maybe I'll try Stoicism tomorrow, if I'm inspired. Sounds ridiculous, right? If he became one of the most respected philosophers in human history, it's because he understood this. Your daily actions, not your moods, define your destiny. So, how do you become more disciplined? Identify your priorities and build them into your daily routine. Don't try to do it all at once. That's a recipe for burnout. Instead, block out specific times in your day to focus on what truly matters. Set aside time for growth, whether it's learning a skill, working on a project, or training your body and mind. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what counts, consistently. As neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains, self-discipline is not about willpower, it's about training. You're not waiting until you feel like it. You're teaching your mind to do what needs to be done. No negotiation. Make a contract with yourself. Yes, you heard that right. Write it down. Put on paper exactly what you're committing to. Sign it like a real agreement. Treat that paper with the same seriousness you would a legal contract. Because this isn't about pressure, it's about self-respect. And if you're struggling to stay on track, ask someone you trust to help you stay accountable, not to guilt you, but to remind you of the promise you made to yourself. Because here's the truth. Discipline isn't punishment. It's a gift, a structure, a quiet force that builds the life you truly want, step by step. So let me ask you one last time. Are you going to keep waiting for motivation to magically appear? Or are you finally ready to do what it takes to get where you know you want to go? Embracing discipline isn't about being rigid. It's about growing with intention. Every single day is another chance to take control, to move forward, to build the strongest, wisest version of you. Not someday, not when you feel like it, but today, right now, one step at a time. Because real transformation doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens in every small choice, in every effort you repeat, in every quiet decision to keep going. If you've made it this far, I want you to write in the comments, I choose to grow every day. That way I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are. The ones who stayed, who listened, who are ready to change. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like this video so you never miss what's coming next. And if you're ready to go even deeper into Stoic wisdom, check out our full playlist right here on the screen. It's packed with stories, insights, and practical tools to help you live with clarity, courage, and calm. Click it now, and let's keep walking this path together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic. Shield